Hello there, how are you? We are back, and now it's just Christy and Alonso and Matt. Ben had a lunch date, quote unquote.
We started talking about we have to cover something about truth, and so we had to leave.
What? I have no idea.
You can't be here for truth.
I have no idea.
All is true.
This is a movie called All Is True,
Sorry.
directed by and starring.
That was quite terrible.
That was a reach. Directed by and starring Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
Alonso, tell us about it.
Branagh.
Tarot.
So Kenneth Branagh, after adapting who knows how many Shakespeare plays into movies and TV events and stage things, is playing Billy Shakes himself. This is set in the later years of his life after the Globe Theatre fire, where he has stopped writing. He returns home to Stratford-upon-Avon as a celebrity, but now has to sort of take up the mantle of a family man again, to be there for his wife, played by Judi Dench, and his daughters and their various domestic dramas. He's still mourning the death of his son Hamnet, and tries to start a garden in his honor. And that's kind of it.
Yes.
That's right. There's not a lot that happens in this movie. It's more just a character study of a great man in his later years, and people trying to make sense of him and him trying to make sense of himself. I liked Judi Dench is of course always great. I enjoy the confrontation that he has with his daughter Judith, who is Hamlet's twin, who sort of feels like the wrong twin lived. Like you loved your son and you don't really care about me one way or the other. And there's a great scene with Ian McKellen that I just wish that could have been the movie, the two of them, because we discover that McKellen's character is the guy who is the subject of one of the more romantic sonnets.
Yes, and he's like a nobleman. He's an aristocrat, Ian McKellen, and Shakespeare, who you think wouldn't be starstruck by anybody at this point because he's such a massive celebrity himself, is kind of giddy and kind of excited and like wants the house to be perfect and everyone on their best foot for this guy, and he comes through and that whole scene in front of the fireplace. Yeah. First of all, so much of this is shot and lighted really dramatically because it's all candlelight, right?
Yes.
A lot of it isn't.
So it's Barry Lyndon.
It is.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to do that now than when Kubrick did it on film.
It's all interiors at night with nothing but candlelight, but that scene in particular takes place in front of a giant roaring fireplace, which would suggest a sense of intimacy, and yet the tension builds as each of them realizes what the other is after, and they realize that perhaps they're not on the same page after all in terms of their expectations for this friendship. Yeah. And that would be an amazing hour and a half long, one act play, whatever. That would be so great. So I like this a lot. It's not showy. It is a really solidly made, handsomely crafted, well-acted, very old-fashioned movie. It's the kind of movie that Kenneth Branagh makes. He makes a lot of time, don't you think? Well-made, kind of old-fashioned, and a little safe.
I suppose so. Yeah. You could certainly look at his Murder on the Orient Express that way, but I think that he's allowed himself to have a little more fun than
Thor.
This. Maybe not that one. I was thinking more along the lines of Dead Again, for instance.
Dead Again was good.
He is playing around with a lot of sort of old film noir tropes. One of his Shakespeare adaptations that I like a lot that I don't think really gets the attention it deserves is Love's Labour's Lost.
I'm not sure I ever saw that.
I think Alicia Silverstone was in it, and I'm going to say Lenny Henry. No, Adrian Lester. But it's kind of, I think, Nathan Lane. It's done as sort of a 30s sort of screwball musical set on the eve of World War II. And so, yes, he does like old stuff, and he likes old movies, and he likes those things. But this movie feels stodgy in a way that usually he doesn't. There's usually a little more energy going on, and I think that he is. I don't know if he's sort of cowed by the subject matter, that he's so in awe of Shakespeare that playing him and presenting his life, he feels the need to be sort of overly respectful about it. This is a movie that I admire. The pieces are all individually very, like you said, it's handsomely shot, and it's, the period detail is well put together. There's a lot of really good performances, but it doesn't live. This movie doesn't really have a heartbeat. It's just sort of this thing that on the wall that I admired, but it didn't sweep me up emotionally or intellectually.
It didn't sweep me up, but I totally respected it and appreciated it.
Absolutely.
And it's unimpeachable in every way from a technical perspective and all that. So this came out for a week at the end of last year.
Right, for awards consideration.
For awards qualifying, a week in New York and LA. And I actually got to do the first Q&A with Kenneth Branagh. Like, they had just finished cutting the print and flying it over from London, and I did a Q&A with him for a quote-unquote tastemaker screening at a screening room I'd never been to in Beverly Hills on the floor of some, talent agency lobby,
Right.
very fancy.
Oh, I think I know which one you mean.
It's like Wilshire and Cannon, I want to say.
It's like walking into Barbarella.
Is that the William Morris one?
It is William
Yes.
Morris. You're right.
Yeah, I've
Very
been to that
good.
one.
This is inside baseball for our listeners at home. So
That's a weird room.
It is a really weird room, but
It's really raked.
I got to do a Q&A with him, and he was totally lovely. And it was a period in Shakespeare's life that, even being a total expert, he acknowledges that not everyone knew about. So I liked that part of it. That
Sure.
I don't think the world knows about this period in Shakespeare's life after the Globe Theater burned down and when he went home before he died, and what was that time like. And it wasn't as productive and it wasn't as exciting. It's the country. It's quieter. It's slower. I like the fact that he has to try to readjust to life there, try to reinsert himself there, and his wife, played by Judi Dench, won't allow it at first. I like that it's not necessarily everyone welcoming him back with open arms as perhaps he might have expected, being William Shakespeare and all.
He's disrupting their routine, basically.
Yeah, so there are some unexpected beats that the film finds here in the Ian McKellen scene as well. So yeah, it's really well done. Yeah, I think they had award. My whole point of telling the story is that I think they had awards expectations for it,
Yes.
but it was a little rushed because they didn't really have screeners ready. They didn't really have a campaign ready. The film was done at the end of the year, so Sonia Classics was like, "What the hell? Let's put it out. Let's try and get it for awards consideration," and nobody saw it, and it's solidly made. I'm not sure it's awards worthy, but it's like a solidly well-made film.
It's awards worthy in the worst way. I'll put it that way. But no, I mean, I don't want to diss this movie. It's perfectly fine for what it is. I just found it kind of uninspiring in a lot of ways.
Safe.
It sounds like the type of movie that 25 years ago would be a shoe-in for an award.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned awards contender.
And if it had been ready in October, they might have been able to turn it into something that way.
They got no traction, yeah.
Did you ever stop seeing Kenneth Branagh in a nose? Because this is a Kenneth Branagh in a nose movie, and I almost feel like, oh man, are you turning into Johnny Depp now, where it's going to be all mustaches and prosthetics and whatever? Like he's trying to make himself look like the first folio, that portrait, and it's just like I never stopped seeing Kenneth Branagh in a nose. The makeup work never became organic and just felt like, oh well, that's what that guy looks like. It's like, no, this is Kenneth Branagh in a nose.
And not that it was bad makeup.
No. It's just it just. You know what it is.
Yeah.
There's that moment where you cross over and you stop seeing that, and it just becomes, oh, that's that guy, and that's what he looks like.
I never forgot that I was watching Kenneth Branagh playing Shakespeare because it's Kenneth Branagh playing Shakespeare, and because he's so closely associated with a lot of great Shakespeare adaptations. Sure. It has so defined his career for so long that they're intrinsically intertwined, and so that's why I never was able to lose myself in the performance, as good as it is. So I think it's pretty solid, 7.4.
Yeah, I said 6.6. It's fine.
Our number's a 7. It's at 74% on the tomato meter, and I guess it's probably just limited this weekend and then going wider elsewhere. But
probably so. And I suspect this is the kind of movie that's going to get shown to a lot of 8th graders.
So 8th graders of the world,
just a hunch.
This is coming for you.
Thanks for watching. Like this video and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at BeFastAllDay, and check out patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. That's where you'll find our TV recaps, including Game of Thrones that Ben sat in for this week, and Fosse Verdon, and our reviews of trailers and all kinds of other stuff. So check that out. Thanks for watching.
Thanks. Bye.